Okay. All right. Excellent. Hey, like I said, hugs to everyone in attendance, and it's going to be recording this and air high fives. We can't thank you all enough. I'm very grateful that we've been able to do this and had folks joining us the entire time. Episode 88. Trevor Nelson, Jason Ledlow, HGA Fundraising, and other HGA Team HGA Nation, all these really cool monikers that we have that mean something. But what means a lot to us is talking about the fundamentals. We've handpicked 3 really can't miss. Absolutely have to have focus on these fundamentals for fundraising. And we're talking about how to get the right donors in the room. Obviously, we're going to do a deep dive. We want to make sure that we have a lot of interaction with everyone, questions, comments, experiences, Q&A feature, chat feature. Getting the right donors in the room, making sure you have the right buying units, the right donors in the room at your event. 2, how to engage your board properly so you're getting the absolute most that you can out of your board. Once again, we're going to do a deep dive on that, need some feedback from everyone. And then we're going to go over some really choice revenue enhancers that we think you should have at your event. We want feedback about what has worked for you. And we're going to do a deep dive on that and how to make the most out of the golden hour of fundraising, how to have the right revenue enhancers and opportunities, bidding opportunities and giving opportunities in your room at your next event. So here we are. And really cool. Like I said, episode 88. I'm flying high on that.
Hey, just make sure you stay to the end and win.
Yep.
We want to give away a
revenue enhancer
that you can use in your next event. If you've got one coming up, you'll be able to use it in that one. So we're excited for you. Hey, before we get going, I want to just ask. This is really for everybody who's here, who's just doing it. Which one of those 3 things really is hitting you guys the heart? Which one do you think y'all, just pop down in the chat. You don't have to put it in a Q&A. Obviously, the Q&A is open. We want to answer any and all questions that you guys want us to spend more time. It's a lot. It's kind of 3 things, and I kind of have an idea of how I wanted to go through them, but I just want to ask y'all which one maybe you're struggling with the most. Does anybody have one of those, is getting your board engaged in the fundraising?
Getting the right folks in the room.
Making sure you have the right people in the room, because somebody of you may have an event coming up here pretty quick, and you're like, I need to get this one done.
We can impact that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because this is really a thing that it goes year round, and that's why. And we're coming up here to the year end, with fundraising and things like that. But I know people have an event, so if there's something that you guys would really need to hit on, please do. And something else, I just want to kind of prime the pump. We're going to send out an email this week. Okay, I'm going to start with that one. That was where I was going to start with, Susan. So thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
So we're going to send out an email. Courtney's going to send this out probably today or maybe tomorrow. And I'd like y'all to just, if you wouldn't mind, this is going to be separate from anything else. Just respond to that email and say, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'd like to hear on. Because when we get your engagement on that, we can bring in, we've got people that we have all over the country, professionals, besides, what we know that we want to bring in, we have that opportunity. So if we anything you guys need, help or you want to hear from, let us know. So that was just a touch. So let's just hop right into it. And Cheryl, that's a great question, and I'll talk about that as well.
Super smart.
And about when people feel like it's too much. So that's a really great topic. Okay. So let's start with board engagement. One of the things I think I hear more than anything else is, how do I get my board engaged in fundraising? They'll show up to meetings and they'll vote on stuff and they'll find lots of stuff, things, they'll point out lots of things we should do. And boards are typically really good at saying no to things. And having sat on several nonprofit boards, and
you're not wrong.
Things like that. It's kind of funny when you sit around the room, and I've seen, the executive directors like, okay, we've got this coming up, and hey, I need everybody, to get in, lean in, pull in, let's go. And everybody's like, well, are we going to do a wine pull? I really think that's a lot of fun. Can we please, are we doing a wine, and then they just take off on a trail.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think that really helps to get board engagement are probably 3 things, and I'll just kind of hit on those. Number one, when you go out to talk to your board in the board meeting and you're talking about your upcoming fundraiser, you need to lead them where you want them to go. Okay. If you just put it open-ended, you're going to get a lot of stuff that doesn't matter, that it's really a waste of time.
Set those parameters early.
I remember one time there was I was in a board retreat, and I'm listening to the board, and they're coming up with all this stuff. And basically they're sitting around in a board retreat, coming up with all kinds of ways, all kinds of things for the executive director and the staff to do. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? And it's like all this stuff. And I'm watching, and I'm kind of sitting there. And finally I go, hey, I got a question. And I asked the executive director, I said, don't you have all that laid out for this next year? She goes, we do.
Yeah.
And I said, so really what you need us to do is raise money to help you get it done. She goes, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that but that's kind of my background is raising money. So that's where I think that way. And that's what boards are there to do. So when you're talking to your board, you need to be really clear. Hey, I'm coming to you because we're at the fundraiser, and it's time, our fundraiser's coming up, or whatever it is. It's the year-end meetings, whatever you're doing, it's that time. And this is what I'm specifically coming to you for. We've got the night of the event. We've got that pretty well hammered out, and, love to get your input, but that's not what I'm here for. This is specific. Here's what I need to talk about. And when you do that, when you set that stage and you set that, typically what I've seen is you get board members going to lean in. They're going to kind of get up here and they're going to go, okay,
yeah,
what can we do?
I know what the duties are.
And, now I know what we're talking about, because otherwise it is going to be just random, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And that's not going to get you anywhere. And you're going to get to the end of it. And anybody here had that where you've been at a board meeting and you got to the end of it and you're like, yeah, I just feel like that was just a waste of time.
Yeah. It's 90 minutes.
Anybody? Can I get a hands up
back
on anything?
Yeah.
Hands up. Anybody?
Hey,
there's one. Come on. You got to be 2.
Yeah.
Come on, help me out here. I know there's got to be more than this. So anyway, two of you are honest, and
then you're all doing a great job. Then with your board, then.
Thank you. So that's what we want to do. We need to set our agenda and be very specific. Be very specific about, this is what we're here to discuss. This is what I need your help with. This is where we need to go. That's number one. And so when you bring this up and you start talking about it, you got to say, this is what our goal is. This is what we need to do. And what I need you to do is to help raise money, which is get the right people in the room. Now, I believe in stacking the deck in my favor. Okay. I always want to stack the deck in my favor anytime I'm trying to get an agenda across to the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to who I believe is the most persuasive person on the board. I mean, I'll use that word.
Okay.
There's 2 people I really want to make sure I've got on my side. The person who I know is going to be most acceptable to it, who's going to really push and, is the leader, whether that's your president, whether that's just somebody on your board, a donor, whatever, but somebody who's really going to come in here and really be encouraged. The second person that I want to get on my side, and this is how I stack the deck, is the person I know that's going to give me the most pushback. So I'm going to lower everybody's hands because I want to know, does anybody have anybody on their board that always is the one that gives them pushback, no matter what it is?
I've seen it.
You could say, hey, I got one. Okay. Anybody else have somebody on their board like that? There's a couple. Yeah. And I know everybody does. It's of varying degrees. It may be that they're not necessarily negative or harsh or anything like that, but they just always tend to do a lot of questions and stuff. I want to get them on my side and answer any questions that they have before we have that board meeting. I want to stack the deck.
There you go. Yeah, we don't.
This is well within your purview to do. Don't. Yeah.
We don't have to play fair.
Fair's where pigs get blue ribbons, so there's no such thing as fair.
Not in fundraising.
And I mean that in the best way.
Stack the deck.
So I want to go out there and talk to those 2 people. Those are the 2 people, that the person that really holds a lot of sway with the board. And like I said, could be the president, could be somebody else. And every board has one. Some people, you might call them the bulldozer when you need something done. They're the ones that you just give it to and they just plow through everything.
Yeah.
So that's the first person. The second person is the one that's going to give me the most pushback, because what you don't want to have happen is you've got that person who asked 37 questions and they're doing it at the board, because that just creates more time, more lapse. And I want to answer those questions. And I'm going to go to that person and I'm literally going to say, hey, Angie,
taking you aside.
Hey, Angela, on the board meeting, or I'm going to call them up, whatever. There's an item up here. I really need your help. And I wanted to reach out to you and see, because I know that you're going to have a lot of questions on this, and I want to make sure that I get all those answered, because I really need you behind this. I'm really pushing. I'm reaching out to folks.
Smart.
And I want to get this done. And it's a simple thing. It's lobbying. Okay.
Totally.
You don't wait until you get, they do it all the time in government. They don't wait until the vote. They pretty well know who's going to vote how before it ever happens.
Yeah.
And so that's all you're doing, is doing a little bit of lobbying, going and talking to some people, getting them on board, answering those hard questions that they may have that doesn't come up before that. And you can you can do that with all your folks, but there's also, time constraints to that. And I'm not suggesting that you go around anybody or you try to do anything that would be, wouldn't be up front. But I think going to those two people will do more for you to get the board to get behind you, because what you've got to do then is you've got to say, look, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is what, boards are there to raise money. Here's what we need to do.
Cool.
I need everybody pulling out your phone. Let's see who we're going to call. We want to make sure that we get our big donors there. We want to make sure that we give a personal invite. To get them behind that, because
lay out the game plan.
They get caught up in the nuts and bolts of it. Well, are we doing the wine pull or not?
Yeah,
because I really like to do the wine pull, and I'm just using that for an example.
I was going to say, like, all that stuff leads to paralysis. You know what I mean? It's just like paralysis by analysis. So it's like, let's speed the car up here.
All right, what are we going to use for the decorations? What are we going to? That is stuff that is that, and and what I like to say is, those are really things that we're going to leave to the committee.
Yeah.
The committee makes those decisions, and those of you that are on that committee, you can fill the board in. We can do a report on it. But what we really want to talk about now is getting you engaged to raise money.
Come on.
And there's, I like to say, there's nobody, it means more to donors when a board member reaches out to them. And this is, where we get to do a little telephone calling. So those are two things that I think that you'll have more sway to get your board going.
I almost feel like it's like, because you're a team, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's a team effort, obviously, in these cases. No one does this on their own on an island. But I was thinking, for some reason, leading up to this, Jay, I was thinking about, like, because we're big on communicating and laying out those parameters, laying out the groundwork, grabbing the person aside, having that conversation, like Jason said. I think that's massive. That's interpersonal communication stuff that you could just really twist the dial on. What I was thinking is, like, whenever, like, because there's always going to be the moments, even if you nail this intro part that Jason just laid out for us, even if you nail it, there's always going to be people that go, hey, they raise their hand, or the 45-minute meeting turns into 2 hours and doesn't need to be, because once again, there's paralysis by analysis, or whatever you want to, phraseology you want to use to describe people when they slow the bus down. But I was even thinking, it's like, hey, you have a title of the event. People really, really respond well to, like, verbal anchors and things. It's like, so anytime anyone gets off the road, I'm thinking you go in on that first meeting and you have a name of what we're doing. It's like, we're going to crush, this gala event. You know what I mean? It's like our, whatever, it's Havana Nights. We're going to crush Havana. It's like, and just always circling back. It's like, that's our gravity. That's our home base. And using that, I know it sounds simple. It might sound a little bit corny, but I'm thinking, just use your verbal anchor. This is the anchor. This is why we're here. It's like, this mission. We're going to, like, we're serving 100 kids. This is what we're doing. Whatever it might be, but pick that and run with it. I know it sounds silly, but
I think you're spot on.
I think it's fun, man.
I think you've got, whenever you lay that goal out and you tell everybody what, this is what the goal is. We need to, these are just numbers I'm pulling out. We need to raise $100,000.
Yeah.
We've got $27,000 committed already. We need to be at 60-70% before we walk in the door. That's where we want to be.
Come on.
And, I want to just say thanks so much to Christy. She's reached out. She reached out to she called all the folks on her list, and she's gotten $15,000 in pre-commit. And I want to really thank Sherry. She reached out and she's got 7,000. She's got some more to do. Hey, and so the rest of you all that have your letters and commit, we really need you to get on board to get this done.
Team
and
effort.
If I can be of help to you to do that, please let me know, and I want to get in there and help you. Little peer pressure is really good for those situations, to talk about what somebody else is doing, to let them know. You're always going to have somebody that says, I don't know who, I just don't know anybody that's got any money. Everyone knows somebody that has money. Okay. Everyone does. So my suggestion is making a little note for that person. Trevor says, hey, yeah, Jason, I'm just really kind of struggling. Hey, no worries. I'll tell you what, let's just, you and I connect. I'll reach out, let's go.
We'll share some ideas.
Next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Let's I'll come to you and we'll sit down and we'll go through this. Something like that to get them, because they can do it. Or we do on the phone or Zoom. I mean, Zoom's so easy. So those are things that you can do.
I love what you keep saying about doing that one-on-one, as opposed to clogging the arteries of these meetings when everyone's there. You know what I mean?
And
like, I just love that. I love the
I
one-on-one
know
approach.
Having 18, if you've got 18 board members, it's really hard to go do that, especially when you're trying to get them pumped up for a fundraiser. Sometimes maybe just shooting them a text would do it. Not just an email. Shoot them a text. Just reaching out to you, hey, Angela, I'm just reaching out to you. I wanted to see if I could help you, get on how your calls are going, what I could do to help you. And I know what I'm just saying. And a lot of board members do not think that that's their responsibility. So what we have to do, I think, sometimes is help people to come to that conclusion on their own. We need to raise 100,000. We're at 26.
Through example, through leadership.
We've got another, at least 24,000 that we've got to get committed before that. And we've got, 3 weeks to do it. So, we need some help from you guys, because it just coming from me is not that, I've reached out to everybody that the staff's hit all of our marks. And that's really where that's going to get them engaged. That typically tends to do that. But again, if I've got my biggest cheerleader and I've got my biggest proponent, opponent, to things, if I can, two people in unison saying the same thing, saying, yeah, let's get this rocking.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody else will just jump right in behind them typically.
We're here to win. We're here to win for these kids, or we're here to win for these, the underprivileged folk, or what have you. I think always circling back to that, having that be the gravity. I think that's really huge. Any feedback? Do we have any feedback?
Please give us any
because
feedback.
We got two more. We have two more major points to make, and I kind of feel like revenue enhancers is going to be the dessert, is how I feel about it. But any feedback, anything that anyone's facing with regard to boards or interactions?
Well, I want to touch on, while they're thinking about that, I want to touch on Sherry's deal where she said, I had to force the issue of a fund to need. Here's a way that you can, just to help if you're getting any pushback on this stuff. I like to say we want to be equal opportunity receivers.
Love that.
We want to be equal opportunity receivers. People say, well, we just feel like we're asking too much. Now, you can do it. If you're asking people for money more than 5 times in one night,
that might be a lot.
That's too much. I think 5 is absolutely the maximum. There's an event that we just happened. It was like the 3rd or 4th year we've been involved with them. And the first time I ever went there, the most money they'd ever raised was like 75 grand. And I got there, they had I kid you not, like 15 or 16 different ways to ask for money. And I got to the event. I was very late into to helping them. Got there, and by the time I got through check-in and walked about 5 feet inside the door, I had been asked for money about 4 or 5 times. Drawings and raffles and all these things. We got them to whittle that down to 5, and they raised over $250,000 the next time. Because they were able to focus everybody in.
Give people too many. Hey, people love options. Give them too many, it's going to lead to paralysis.
But I want to come back to this, to the fund of need, and about whenever somebody on the board is pushing back. And, you've got to bring your goal back and say, there are people who want to, you're going to have all flavors. You never know what the mission's going to touch and how you're going to do it. There's going to be somebody there that your mission, which has got to be in front, is going to touch. You're going to touch their heart. They're going to have an opportunity to give. Maybe there wasn't anything in the live auction they wanted.
Sure.
You know, I mean, everybody goes, why wouldn't anybody, you know, why weren't they bidding on my stuff? There wasn't anything there that they wanted.
Maybe they didn't know about it before the event and it wasn't advertised properly. It could be all sorts of things.
When you're able to make this ask, even and the people who have given the most will continue to give the most. Whenever you make that ask, so the live ask is just the simplest way. Fund a need is the simplest way to connect people to your mission, to let them give it some level, because you're going to have people there that didn't buy anything, they didn't do anything, but they give $250 because they know that sending a kid to camp's $1,000, and they're like, hey, I paid for a week for a kid to go to camp.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep.
And you're going to touch their heart. So those are things that are really important. I've seen times where I've done a fund a need, you know, and it wasn't planned, and raised 13, 14, 15,000. And some people would sit there and go, well, that wasn't very much. But for an event that did $100,000, that's 15% of what you just raised. That's a pretty big chunk of money. And this is all net money. And also it's a way to identify donors. So, you know, doing those things whenever to get your board on, you know, get your board on board. How to get your board on board.
On board the board.
Doing those things is to say, this is what we're going to do.
Yep.
This is what we've laid out. These are the strategies that we've put in place, and this is why.
Yep.
We want to be equal opportunity receivers. And when you start using those words, people start going, oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. We don't want to say no to these opportunities.
Okay.
Jason, I got a question. Yeah. This is right in your strike zone, brother. Jason's an expert in this board space because he's been on many and worked with many. Angela, thanks so much. Great question. Perfect. That's exactly what we were asking for. During the board meetings, the board seems excited, but follow through seems to lag afterwards. Any other ideas about other ways to keep them enthused and connected after the board meetings besides one-on-one meetings?
So there's a board, board committee that I recently worked with, and I went to the board and I did some coaching with them. What I did was I just went around the room.
Yeah.
I literally went around the room, and it kind of comes best sometimes from a third party, from somebody, because, you know, for me, I'm not sitting on the board there. I'm not going to be, you know,
yep.
If I offend somebody, it's not going to be the same as, you know, if the executive director does. And I'm not trying, obviously was not trying to offend
but it's anybody, not going to keep
what
you
I
up
said,
at
I said, hey, who's here on the board? Who's willing to be accountable?
Ooh.
Let's ask a question. Who here is willing to be accountable to this? This fundraising?
Yeah. I love that. Who wants to win?
Do you think anybody said no? Everybody raised their hand. And I said, thank you so much. So what you're saying is, and I want to just make sure that you're saying it's okay for us to reach out, to hold each other accountable in this. Yep. Everybody's in.
Cool.
Well, and what I want you to do is what I want you to say, the way I want you to say it, Angela, is everyone here willing to be accountable? Not who will be accountable. Are you willing? Because you're asking everybody. Because if you just say who, well, then it's like you're trying to just get one person up there. Is everybody here willing to be accountable to this? Because the reality is they are. The board is absolutely 100% on the hook financially and legally for this organization that they serve.
You've said that before, and it was particularly indelible to me. That's their responsibility.
It's no different than if the deal goes upside down and their bills due, guess who's going to be on the hook for it?
Yeah.
The board.
Yeah.
Period. It is. That's the way it is.
Not wrong. Yeah.
If the organization gets sued, everybody on the board will be named.
Yeah.
I mean, you are legally and fiducially responsible for the board if you sit on a board of a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
gotta take it seriously.
You know, going back and just asking their permission if they're okay with being everybody will raise their hand because they know, yes, that is. Okay, great. Thank you so much for giving us permission. Now, is everybody here committed to make these calls because we've laid this out or we've put a list out there? These are the people that you know, and we're going to, whatever it is that you're asking them to do. Is everybody here willing to have this done and checked off by, here's a kind of a way to change it around. Is everyone here willing, able to commit to having this done by next Tuesday? Mm-hmm. You know, today's Thursday. Can everybody have that done? You know, pretty much everybody's got 5 phone calls to make. Everybody here committed to be able to have that done by next Tuesday.
I love that. I love that.
Somebody says, no, I can't, I'm going to be gone. Okay. How about Wednesday?
Then you'll know. Yeah.
You know, but you're doing this and
have
you're
that conversation.
them, and because now they've all made a commitment to all the room. It's one thing to say, yeah, this is a really good idea. Let's go do this. But if you don't get them to commit, then they're not going to commit, because guess what?
Yeah.
Well, this is one thing. They've got a job, they've got a life, they've got kids and responsibilities and stuff like that. And it's not that they're not doing it because they don't care. They're just doing it because it's just not in their, they've got a boss they've got to report to, or they've got employees, or they've got something else going on. Their spouse is having some health issues. They got a father that, is in the hospital. It's just all that stuff out there. And so, and that way, whenever it comes up time and that day hits and Tuesday hits and Trevor hasn't got his calls done, I'm picking up the phone and going, hey, Trev,
you're
hey, what's
well
going
within
on?
your bounds.
Exactly. Yeah, because they've already asked you to do that. They've accepted that to be responsible for that. So those are just some little things to get them engaged in a very soft way that brings them on the team and lets them know that they have accountability.
I love that.
Going, you're accountable to this. If we get sued, you're going to be named on it. So you better pick up the phone and raise some money.
Yeah. I'm a student of all this, so I feel like I'm learning as you're saying this as well. And what's funny to me is I think there's some psychology involved with the way you just laid that out, and asking for accountability and commitment levels from different folks in the room. And if you hear them say it, what psychology dictates. It's like, if you commit and in front of an audience and say it out loud, like, I'm going to do this, you sure as heck don't want to show up next Tuesday and not have it done. I mean, that kind of makes you, I don't want to use any negativities or cast aspersions.
Well, no, I mean, we do the same.
But I mean, it commits you, man. It commits you. If I tell you, if I tell you I'm going to get something done, I better get it done, or I'm going to look like a phoney.
Well, we do the same thing with our teams. We have a meeting with one of our teams. And, the question goes around is everybody good with this? Is everybody committed? Is everybody going to sign on to this?
Super smart.
We want to get it. Buy-in works all the way around. It's not, when somebody goes, you go around the room, are you good with this? Are you good with this? Are you good with this? Now, it sounds a little harsh, and I know it would be, for a lot of people, it's way outside their comfort zone. So that's why, because if I go to an organization and I sit down with them and I'm coaching there, that's what I do. I go around the room because I make sure everybody has name tags in front of it, or I have it on there where I can read it. And I go around the room and I say, Christy, are you good to be responsible for this? Courtney, are you good to be responsible? Sherry, Trevor, Jason, Frank, Mary, Sally, Sue. Go around and get them. And it's a lot of fun to do that because everybody starts going, okay, that's good. And they want that accountability because they want to do good for the organization. Otherwise, they wouldn't. I love that.
Yeah, you're not afraid. You're unabashed. You've had a lot of reps, but I'm just thinking from my own perspective, and I know that the fact that folks have, are feeling the same way, probably like you're pushing a boulder uphill. It could be a little daunting. And
well,
you feel
it feels
like you're calling
intimidating.
people out. It's a little intimidating. Exactly.
And that's why I wouldn't recommend. I don't recommend for staff to do that. But these are same practices you can do with your staff.
Yep.
If you've got some team, then you're putting together your folks, and everybody's got to get some stuff. And you go around the room and say, "Hey, is everybody on board for this?
Put it out there.
Yep. Are you good? Are you good? Are you good? Are you good? Yep. Are you signed off on it?
Yep.
And what can I do to if not? And then what can I do to help you get there? And that's just people want to be led, and boards are no different. Fortune 500 companies, the board's not up there picking out stuff to do. Mm-hmm. They're not out there nitpicking, telling the CEO that what
they're making sure it gets
what
done.
they should color they should paint the bathrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just they're not. They don't. That's not what they're doing. They're sitting there talking about the wherewithal and the well-being of the company, and are we making the right decisions? And they paint the picture. Say, I need you to be on board. Are you on board? Because if you're not, let's talk about it.
Yep, love that.
And so that's why I like the whole scenario of going and getting the people that it's going to be the biggest advocate, and also the person who's going to be the biggest, critic, and getting them on the same side.
You're talking about people, Jay. I have to ask you a favor. I think we need to pivot. And you're talking about people, and one of the fundamentals that we promised to talk about today, that we're
getting the right people in the room,
is getting the right people in the room, getting the right donors in the room. and how you go about doing that. And I know some worst practices off the top of my head, as far as like filling up tables with the wrong folks and things like that. Talk to us about best practices. What do we do?
The first thing is, you get what you ask for.
Ooh.
You will absolutely get that. So
that's good.
You go to let's just use corporate sponsorships and asking.
All right.
And I love the bank analogy because it does that. Anybody here, does anybody have any banks that sponsor?
I've been a part of a lot.
Anybody buys a table at your
yeah.
Got one, Callie. Jackie, let me ask y'all real quick. And if you don't mind, just put it down in the comments. When you get that bank, does the banker show up with all of his rich friends or her rich friends?
That's a good question. I know the right answer. Not sure. Okay.
Not sure.
It's honest.
Okay. So this is how we make sure.
Yeah, there we go.
Find out who has the best relationship with that bank, with that person, whoever landed that. Banker and staff, usually some of the employees.
Yes, you do, Jackie.
See, this is where we get into really start struggling.
We're not disparaging the employees, just as a
not a
disclaimer.
At all. We love. But here's what happens: banks get hit up all the time, and usually employees. And what happens is, I'm just going to throw out a number, okay? So let's say that the bank says, "Yeah, we'll buy a $2,500 table," and they go drop the card out there, and they put, they get their name on everything, and then the president or whoever, the COO, CFO, whoever was the contact walks down there with 8-10 tickets and hands them out to the staff and says, "Hey, who wants to go to an event? They've got free drinks and food and dinner."
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And so now this $2,500 table, this gala that you're putting on, costs $125 a person is what your expenses are. So now you've just cut your revenue in half, and you're really not making very much. So they basically got something for nothing. And everybody that shows up, what do? They drink and they eat, and they don't spend a nickel because they don't have a nickel. And I don't mean that specifically.
No. Yeah.
But I see that a lot. There's companies come and there's nobody shows up. So what I want to do is I'm going to call the bank and say, "Hey, Mr. Banker, thank you so much for being this. I really need your help this year. What I need you to do I need you to come to. Can you make that happen? Can you and your spouse and fill that up with some rich friends?"
Yeah, we need people on your board, Mr. Banker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bring your board.
Yeah, bring your board.
People who have.
I've seen that happen firsthand.
Capacity to give.
Yeah.
And that is a completely different ask. When I call somebody for money, if I'm going to, and obviously I don't do that now, but whenever I was on a board, if I picked up the phone and called somebody, I literally would say, "Hey, Trevor, hey, I need you and Shelby to pick out 5 of your, get 6 of your rich friends, bring them, and
this is what we're doing.
Show up.
Show up and show out.
I'm asking you not just to dump it to your employees. I'm asking for you to come. Can you be there? I appreciate your sponsorship. I really do. But for the table, we really would love to have you come and hear about the mission, do what we're doing, and who can show up and show off."
Jay, I got a question. I got a question for you. It could be a no-brainer, obviously, but if you're a staff member, if you're the executive director, development director, you don't want to be making that call to the bank. You probably want to advocate your board to do it.
Oh, yes. No. I think if whoever got the sponsorship, if it's somebody on the staff, that needs to be the person that makes the ask this way. Okay. And it's okay.
Yeah.
You're not going
That's
to
what I'm saying. It's a delicate conversation.
They're not going to go, "Well, I'm offended that you say that. I'm going to pull my pulling my sponsorship."
Yep. We had Employee of the Month. We were guaranteeing them a spot.
Yeah. Nobody's going to be offended.
Yeah. Because the focus is to raise money. You know what I mean? If they understand that's the focus.
So that's one of the number one places that I can see that get the right people in the room, because we've got these folks that are doing this. We want to make sure that they show up. Because I want to get that banker personally involved. I want to get the banker and the spouse personally involved. I want to get the executives team involved. That's how you go deep with these organizations. Okay. Because here's the other thing that they do. What do bankers do? They hold on people's money. So they know the people that have capacity to give.
Yes.
And that's a connector. Okay. So it may not just be them, but say, would you be willing to bring some of your customers, some of your board members? We'd like to have you do that. And
yeah, I
Jerry
love
just
that
said,
shit.
have the
Yeah,
bankers
underwrite.
sponsor.
That's a great. We're always preaching that.
Quite frankly, they'll
yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Because the other thing they'll do is they'll donate the table back. Well, we want to donate the table back.
Love that.
Does anybody ever have that happen? See, I don't like that. I think that that's a waste. I'll put everybody hand.
You're leaving money on the table.
That donates a table back? I'm curious. All the time. Okay. So this is a great way to switch to my favorite thing, which is underwriting.
Yeah.
Sponsorship and underwriting.
Yeah.
They're two different. They're separate from table sales. You don't have to give away. You can give a couple of tickets. It's all negotiable. Sure. If you've got somebody, because how many people want to sit with somebody else anyway? You know, my wife and I, we want to sit with Trevor and Shelby. I don't want to have to go buy another table because then I've got to go fill it. I've got to go do all that. But I want to be involved in your organization, and I do want to give because I've been there. I know what the mission is, but I don't want to have it go get a hold of another table. So, but you know what? I'm able to sponsor there's a place I can sponsor the software. Awesome. I'm in. I'll do that. Gives me a great way to do that. Maybe with my company, maybe for me to get more involved. I don't just have to buy an auction item. You know, so you want to, again, we want to be equal, give them ways that they can get involved. The other thing that I find is one of the best ways to get people to come to an event is the most powerful fundraising tool. And that's pick up the phone and start making some calls.
Love that.
And this is not just for you, the folks here. And I don't know how many we have that are board members and how many are staff, but it's not just for staff. This is where the board can get involved. This is where they can really go deep. You can have them do it at the board meeting. Put it on the agenda. We're going to have a text blitz. Get 5 names, the people that they have, they have a contact with. And if you don't have a list of who your board knows, that's the next thing on your next board meeting is to make sure that you go through and do a people exercise to know who in the world knows who.
I've heard you do this in the past. It really stuck with me, Jay. And I want to play the numbers game just for a second. You're like, I've heard you ask people, and you've recounted these different stories many times to me because I've been learning so much from you. You'll say to someone, how many can you make? How many texts can you make? How many calls can you make? And they'll say 10 a day. Mm-hmm. And you'll say, okay, give me 5. Okay. And 5 before noon. And if you don't get to it,
5 before noon, do it.
Okay, great. But Jason's got a really cool, once again, it's all psychology and getting people to do what you're asking them to do for the mission. But, Jason will lay it out there. I've heard him do it. How many can you do? Guy goes, 10. Jason goes, okay, I want 5. But I want you to write it down, and I want you to guarantee, write it on this paper, sign this paper, you are doing 5. You said you could do 10. I'm only asking for 5. So, and it's amazing how that sparks a lot of interest with folks. They go, okay, yeah, I got
and
this.
I always say by noon, because if you do it by noon and something happens and, somebody has a dentist appointment, whatever, well, they've got the whole afternoon to get it the rest of it knocked out.
Life comes up. Cool. You're at 5, you got 3 done, you got 2 done afternoon,
Yeah, I know a guy,
I thought that was really good, Jay.
Yeah, there's an executive director from a camp raised, I think, $400,000 in 3 months' time, and he made 3 calls a day.
He told you he can make more. I think he told you he can make 10.
He said 10.
Like yeah, and you're like, give me 3.
He said 10. Well, how about 5? How many can you make by noon? And he said 3. Okay, let's do that. Actually, he said 5, and I said, let's just stick with 3.
I love it.
So,
because that's motivation. That's a big difference between motivation and discipline too, though, right? It's like motivation dictates I want to do 20, but discipline dictates I can do.
Well, because 3, we all. It sounds good. It's kind of like, okay, perfect example. You want to start running and you haven't been running.
Yeah.
If you go out here and try to run 5 miles, it's going to be pretty brutal.
I run through that question in my mind all the time. It's so funny.
You're going to be in trouble. So why don't you just go try to run for 10 minutes?
People go, I want to get to a place where I can run 7 days a week. And I'll go, have you ever ran 7 days a week before?
How many days a week are you running now?
Yeah, it's like,
they go
2.
None.
It's like, okay, well, let's not shoot for 7. You know what I mean?
Well, getting back to the point of how do we get the right people in the room? It's who we know.
Yeah. Yep. I love
And
that.
even up to
People exercise.
literally a week, 10 days before your event, you can still do it. You've got somebody who's like, hey, I'm not sure who to get. Hey, you've got somebody that hasn't turned in their table.
Oh, it's sometimes
Reason
the
is they don't
best
know who they're
time.
going to bring yet.
That's the best time sometimes, man. Absolutely.
They don't
Yeah.
know
It's
because,
not too late.
everybody, I mean, I just think in my world, okay, well, let's see, who are we going to get? Well, if this couple commits, then they're really good, also good friends with this other couple, and then we can bring this couple in. But if this one doesn't go, then they don't really like this other person. And, it gets this big old nightmare going on. And that's what people are struggling with. But if you give them some encouragement to say, hey, if you're having some struggle, happy to help you see if we can pick some people out, we've got a big deal. We need to raise a lot of money. I just, can they write a check for $10,000?
Here we go.
Who all do you know that's got, let's ask them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, it's funny because when you stop talking about social, which it's still a social event, but you get away from the social aspect and get on to the business aspect of money, it kind of changes stuff.
Love that.
And that's why I like to say, whenever somebody does a table, to say, hey, Trevor, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Really, we've got a big mission, big ask this year. So if you could ask all your friends that have capacity to give, you think that would be a part, we'd really like to have them come.
Yep. Love that.
But you're just putting that message out. You're just doing it. And it's a very casual thing. It's showing gratitude, but you're also making a request. So that's how we get the right people in the room. People talk about all these, other stuff. And the other thing is, you got to have something somebody wants to come to.
Venue menu.
And when I say someone wants to come to, people with capacity.
Yeah.
I mean this with all due respect in every deal. But if you're doing a spaghetti dinner and, it's $15, $25 a plate, and you're trying just to bring people in, you're going to try to go raise $100,000, you're probably not going to get there. Because the people that have capacity aren't looking to go to the $25 a head spaghetti dinner. Doesn't mean there's not a place for that stuff, but that's not what's going to show up. That's not who's going to be there. And there's an event that I know I've helped these folks, and and it's so frustrating. And I just kind of got to the point where I was so frustrated because they would just wait till the last minute, charge people $50, selling tables for $200. I said, well, and they're like, well, the food's donated. I said, yeah, but you're basically telling everybody this is a cheap event.
Yeah.
So guess who's going to come?
Yeah.
The people that go to cheap events.
Yeah.
The people that have capacity aren't going to show up.
Also, they want
nothing there they want. I mean,
there you go.
Rich people, well, let's just be honest. Rich people don't stay in Motel 6.
So don't offer that in the silent auction is what you're saying.
No, yeah.
So we're going to pivot. We're pivoting though, because now we have the right people in the room. We've engaged the board, right people in the room. Now we want to give them opportunities to give that will appeal to them. And it's so funny, Jay, because we're always talking about just don't have junk in the silent auction. Don't have 50 things that you had from last year. I'm sorry. Of course, I'm not going to name names, but I looked at a mobile bidding site or an auction site recently. And the second featured item, there's a pretty big event, it looked like, at least. I got a bunch of emails, so they did good about contact. The second featured item was a color copier. And I said, no. I said, please, no. Not the color copier. You get people, people have color copiers, right? I mean,
you can go down and buy a color copier for about $200. Yeah.
I could have a color copier, delivered to my house tomorrow. That's not getting people motivated, getting people out of bed, motivated to give. Don't do the color copier, please. So
let's go to this fundraiser and buy office supplies.
Come on. Like, I have a hedge trimmer. I've seen the weed whackers. I've seen the different things like the chainsaws. Like,
there's a place and somebody hands you something like that. Absolutely. You want to take it and do that. But, back to let's talk about the way that you start and determine what you want to do is to start what you want to raise.
Yep. Always remember the math.
Okay. If you have an event that you need, and these are just numbers, that you've got to raise $100,000, then you need to build it to raise $150,000.
Love that.
Now here's why. Number one, you got to make sure that you've got enough stuff going on to get there. Number two, What if it's one of those special nights and, everybody's having a good time, they're feeling really generous, and you want to have some ways that you can raise money? Kind of back to the fund to need question.
Yeah.
So there are five things. There are five things that work.
Give us some examples.
They sound boring and they sound, whatever, but they work. You need to have some kind of a raffle, golden ticket, some kind of thing that allows people to get in at a low price point, but that can raise you money. Yeah. A golden ticket, $100 a ticket. Everybody can afford to buy one, especially when they've got a 1 in 100 chance to win something. Whether it's a trip from us, a trip from somebody else,
donated, whatever. It could be the jeweler, the local jeweler. We've seen a lot of success with that, with the cubic zirconia and all that stuff. Yeah.
So there's one. 2, a silent auction, even if it's small. And again, nobody wants to go buy a bunch of junk because and we did a deal about how much time are you spending, how much time is your volunteer staff and everything to make money. People are going to give you stuff. They're going to give you the color copiers and the weed whackers and stuff because they do want to contribute something, and that's what they have. That's great. That's awesome. Put it in there, do it. Okay. That's all fine. But be thoughtful about it and put that in there. And how much money is it going to raise? So again, we know what the golden ticket will raise. If we do the work and it'll raise between 10 and 25,000, depending on which way we go. So let's just say we did that. So there's 10 grand. Now we're going to have the silent auction. We've planned and plotted, and we've put everything out there, and we believe that, this is going to raise us 25,000. So we're at 35 grand. Okay. We've got a really rocking live auction. We've got 7 items. We're going to plan conservatively that net dollars that auction will raise 35,000. Conservatively, 35 grand. Okay. So now we're at 70. The second thing we've got to do now, if it goes off, because we've got some stuff in there, we can sell multiples, and we've got some things. If it does really well, we've got the headroom. These things, it could do 70. But we're going to be real conservative. Yep. Then we've got a fund to need, and we're walking in the door, and we've got $25,000 of pre-committed dollars. So we feel pretty good. We've got our 95 grand. We've got to make some stuff up. So we've got another $5,000 we've got to come up with, because we're feeling pretty, we believe we're going to raise more than that in the fund to need, but we want to make sure that we walk in the door, we pretty well conservatively know that we've hit 100 grand. Okay, so maybe we come up with something else. Maybe we do a second raffle, because how many have we done so far? We've got a golden ticket raffle, we've got a silent auction, we've got the live auction, and a fund to need. We've got 4, so we could do one more.
Maybe a game.
Maybe this is where you do a last champion standing.
Exactly. Yep.
I hate heads or tails, but maybe you do a game like that. I don't like it because it's slow, and I know people like it and it's fun,
but we don't have to like it.
But I don't have to like it. Yeah. You can do it. If your folks like it, that's great.
Yeah.
But now, because I've done the work front end, I've built my auction. I know what my fundraisers are, and I can go find those things. Maybe we've got that donation where we've got, we go and put the Yeti cooler and the weed whacker and the case of beer that somebody donated, and do some stuff like that. And we put all this together, and we're going to do our last champion with that.
Love that.
Maybe it's something that was, kind of really cool, but nobody, it just didn't quite make the cut for the live auction. So we're going to put it in, but we don't want to leave it in the silence. So we use it for this. Yeah. So these are
I like your champagne and shots idea though too, Jay, to make a few bucks.
Champagne and shots. There you go.
Or one or the other. Yeah. Really cool stuff.
And now you could do both of those, and now you're hitting 6. It's okay, because the shots and champagne is just kind of a fun deal. And what that is, if you don't know, is, you could either do it with champagne. You can do it. I've seen people do it with shots of
Fireball, tequila.
Fireball, and literally, this was at a very formal black tie gala. Yeah. I'm talking. This was a ritzy deal. The cheapest, the least expensive table was $5,000. Up to 50. Yeah. This was in.
I love it.
600 people were there. They came out with trays of shots. And for a $300 donation, or $200, I think it was $200 or $300 donation, it was shots for the table.
Do that 10 times. Do that
So,
10 times. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
everybody wanted to do it because there's going to be some Yahoo at each
like,
table.
I went to college.
Yeah, heck
I'm
yeah,
gonna do
man.
some fireball. I went to college.
This will be fun. So it's one of those things. And I know there's lots of stuff.
The
People
closet
say, well,
fireball drinker.
We can't bring the booze in because we can't do it.
Yeah.
Tell them that you want to buy the because I mean, if you're selling it for $200 for 8 shots, do the math. It works.
Yeah,
because
we've done the math. We've always come back to $12 a gallon for a fireball.
Yeah, it's something like that. Math. I don't know, 55-gallon drum, $25 of that stuff.
It sounds hot. Yeah. It sounds very hot.
So, those are just some really simple things to do. I know there's lots of other fundraisers and games and things, but those are the things that
tried and true methods.
What you cannot do is, okay, well, we've got, we've got some stuff in the live auction and we've got some stuff over here, and well, we really hope it does well. Okay, here we go. Man, I sure hope we do good.
Good intentions.
If you're doing that, you're not doing yourselves any, I mean, you're basically really putting yourself up for, setting yourself up for failure and disappointment.
Yeah.
And let's just say that we did just what I talked about, and it was just an okay night. Pretty much, if it's just an okay night, we're still going to hit our number. Okay. Yeah. But if it's a good night, if it's really, things are just going right and everybody got those fireball shots just in time, and boy, we had an auction item and we had somebody took off and this goes off, and then you do raise the $150,000-$200,000. And we know that happens because we have so many of you guys that talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are just getting the right stuff in the room, priming those things up, making sure that you've got, getting your board behind you, because they are key to getting the right people in the room. Then once you've got the right people in the room, have things that they want.
Yep.
I got one thing I want to say, and just because we're in this business and we hear this question a lot.
Yeah.
What's your least expensive thing? What's your lowest price item? And I'm like, I don't understand the question. Well, what's your lowest price? Well, but how much money are you trying to raise? Mm-hmm. And that's where I always go. If any of y'all have talked to me before, or Trevor, well, that's how we say, well, how much money are you trying to raise? Because that's the way you need to think about it. If you're using consignment, whether it's ours, somebody else's, it is not how cool the thing is, what it is, or everything like that. It's how much money are you trying to raise? Mm-hmm. Because if you need to raise $35,000 in your live auction, you can't have things that are only going to bring $1,500 to $2,000.
Yeah. And you do that by having the right people in the room, eh?
Yeah. And don't have 35 things in your auction. Don't do that.
And don't please don't ever let us catch you having the color copier as your featured item. Just do that.
No colored copiers is featured.
88 episodes in, I'm asking a favor. Okay.
Yeah. 88 episodes in. Let's hear some questions. I'd love to get the feedback on what I'm talking about and see if you guys, is this making sense? Is this helpful? I just kind of go off experience and what we're seeing.
No offense, by the way. I don't want to be rude. If someone has a color copier in their event, I'm not mad. I'm being more jocular than anything about that. Hey, this was top of mind.
There's five people left just now because I think they had color copies.
Sorry, everybody. Yeah, we still love you no matter what. But anyway,
any questions? Okay. Any questions on stuff? Maybe you want to try Angela. Something and you're not sure, or you've got somebody coming in. All these things are really, really important. And they all hit. And I know sometimes you feel like you're behind the curve. I get it. Mm-hmm. You got an event coming up in 2 weeks, and you're sitting there going,
Good, Sherry. Awesome.
Good.
Yeah, you want to make money. Sherry. I love it. I love that feedback. Angela, I think I told you, if you have any follow-up questions, or I'm asking, not telling, but I put Jason's email, jason@hjafundraising.com. Email him with any follow-up questions. And that goes to anyone. I'm Trevor at hjafundraising.com. You can obviously tell where the brains of the operation are, but you can definitely reach out to me because I want to help. But that being said, I got the best guy right here, next to me. So if I don't have the answer,
we're just a couple of fun-loving party guys.
We're fun-loving party boys. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, Jay, I was just going to say, we did a really cool podcast about this as well, because we were talking about the right revenue enhancers and being not being dissuaded.
That's why I put this back here. I put this back here on purpose.
I didn't even see that. That's
I
our
don't know
podcast.
if you guys saw this.
That's our podcast. Hey, nonprofits raise more money.
A shout out for it. We've been doing some really fun stuff with this and getting a lot of great feedback. And it's really where they're all about 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they're 10.
Yeah. Really easy to digest on a drive or on a workout or something like that, or a walk. Yeah.
And we hope, I think that, we've been getting a lot of great feedback.
Listen to it with your,
trying to bring some good stuff.
Maybe before date night with your spouse, like if you're having a glass of wine, you listen to the podcast just because it gets you excited. You're just like, oh my God, these guys are so positive. This is great. But however you want to,
I've got to break this up. We've got to draw a prize. We've got talking about prizes and stuff of value. We have got a trip that we're going to give away, and
sounds good. I concur. Let's give away a trip.
The winner is Alicia Austin. Austin.
Awesome. Alicia, congratulations.
You got a trip that you can use to raise more money at your next fundraiser.
You could use it as a revenue enhancer. We can show you how. Our team will get at you with that, Alicia, today. If you have any questions, Courtney's going to email that out to you. And
and please, when you get that request, we'll probably try to send that out tomorrow.
The questions,
the questionnaire, it's just a couple. It's really just a simple thing to say, hey, is there anything that you want to hear about? Is there somebody, something that within the fundraising? We've got a cool one coming up next week. It's year-end ask, about how to make that year-end fundraising ask, and we'll be talking about that.
I didn't finish my thought about we had a really cool podcast about not letting people like an auctioneer or a consultant or a board member or an event planner dissuade you from using a tool, a revenue enhancer that will help you raise money. So check that out. Hey, Nonprofits Raise More Money, Spotify, iTunes. You can actually watch it on YouTube if you get I would be sick of seeing our faces, so I would just listen to it in the car or on my bike. But check it out. It's actually really cool. We're really proud of it. We've done a bunch of them. Jason's only made me cry one time during the podcast, so that's cool. And but it's really been really positive, and the feedback's been fantastic. So let us know, and download, subscribe, rate, review those pods, and let us know what you think.
Share this with somebody else. If you've got somebody else in maybe within your organization or outside, somebody that in the nonprofit space you'd like to share this with, we'd really appreciate it. We just want to get the word out. And if we can ever help you, please, Trevor at HJ Fundraising, Jason at HJFundraising.com. We're here to help.
Thanks for the feedback, Fred. Angela, reach out to us via email if you have any other follow-up questions. I know Jason can help you hit it out of the park, and that goes for anyone. I'm not just picking on you, Angela. So thanks so much. The Back to the Future episode of the HJ Free webinar series is complete now. Do you know why it was the Back to the Future episode? Do you guys know why? Do you know why, Jay? 88 miles an hour to time travel in the DeLorean, and this is episode 88. So this was the Back to the Future episode of the HJ Free webinar series, and we can't thank you all enough. I don't know what that means for everyone that's in attendance or everyone that was listening to the recording, but it's fun. They might be too young, Jackie. Yeah. I'm pumped too, Susan. Let's keep it going, Susan. If you have any questions or any comments or any thoughts, reach out to us, email us, and we can continue the conversation, because that's what we love to do. We're enthusiasts about this, and can't thank you all enough for being here
next week.
All right, next Thursday. All right, see you, everybody. Thank you.